Good afternoon, one and all. I welcome you to yet another propelling and inspiring session of your first day of induction, Ignite 2021. I am Professor Arpit Trivedi, your event host and moderator. Let me take you through the process of how we will conduct the webinar today. Our guest will address the batch for 1 hour. First 50 minutes will be knowledge sharing and last 10 minutes will be question and answers. It is my honor to introduce Brigadier Ajit Apte. Brigadier Apte is an alumnus of NDA Khadakwasla. Sir has participated in Indo-Pak War of 1971, both in eastern and western sectors. He has been part of active operational service in J&K and the counter-insurgency environment in Northeast. Sir has commanded an artillery regiment and artillery brigade in western sector. Brigadier Apte has held various instructional and staff assignments at Army headquarters. He was Brigadier General Staff at School of Artillery Devlali, where he was responsible for operations, training, and instructions and interactions with foreign military training delegations. He has completed Long Gunner Staff course in the Indian Army, which is equivalent to MSc in Weapon Technology. Sir is an MDBA in Personal Management and Human Resource Management from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, Pune. Sir has also completed a research fellowship in the National Security Perspective for India in Southeast Asia with special reference to the Sino-Myanmar Alliance from Pune University. He was also on national panel as cricket commentator in English with the All India Radio. Currently, Sir is active as Member Advisory Council, Stenberg Interims, and Member Advisory Council, IIEBM. Now, I request Brigadier Apte to kindly address the batch.
Good evening, my dear friends, students of the IIEBM in the school batch, 22nd batch. Thank you very much, Professor Arpit. I must thank Dr. Jay Marwa, Professor Arpit, and of course, Dr. Poonam for inviting me to address this first batch of this new session. It's always great pleasure to meet young boys and girls who are aspiring after their basic college and other vocations that they have pursued to refine and fine-tune their skills in a management course which gives them adequate variety of knowledge, different fields and spheres of activity, and also gives them an idea what the world is all about. It's an ideal opportunity to meet and make new friends, to adjust to different environments, to understand each other, develop a sense of camaraderie, bonding, empathy, and human kindness, which is very important in any sphere of activity. Be it in the corporate sector, which you all have chosen, be it in the armed forces, be it in the public or government services, be it even in your private business of becoming an entrepreneur or starting your own brownfield and greenfield projects. With my experience of 36 years in the Army, and if you count my 4 years in training, that makes it about 40 years in uniform. Subsequently, moving on to another platform, that is the corporate sector, one has learned a lot. There are best practices from the armed forces, the Indian Army, and best practices from the corporate, which if they are merged together, they synergize into a very fine product where we are able to turn out better managers and above all leaders. Leadership is an art which needs to be inculcated by all personnel, irrespective of what position or designation they are actually assigned to or holding. Depending on a person's level of seniority, his qualifications, and his ability to command or lead people, they are assigned these different roles. It is important that discipline, professionalism, timings, and all other attributes which go towards making a machine work with different tools to get that correct orchestrated musical effect. We are all working in wherever we are, whether it's the armed forces, whether it is the corporate sector. We are all moving towards a common goal, common missions, and common objectives, which enable the nation to then function effectively towards common goals and objectives. It is therefore important that we learn to understand each other irrespective of caste, creed, religion, or background. The Indian Armed Forces are the finest example of secularism, where we pay no heed to caste, creed, or religion. I have served for 36 years with different types of troops, with different religions. I have fought in the 1971 war as a second lieutenant, just 21 years of age, with hardly 6 months of service to start with. And I have realized that all this is unimportant as long as we keep nation first. And therefore, there is a good motto which we have learnt at the National Defence Academy: service before self, and the safety, honor, welfare of your country comes first and always first. The safety, honor, welfare of the troops that you command comes next, and the safety, honor, and welfare your own comes last and always last. I think if this dictum is followed by you students, you will realize that life will be so much easier. It will be easy to perform, it will be easy to beat the targets of your bosses, and you will find that you will enjoy your work, and you will soon, as you progress, will one day aspire to reach the top. Remember, everyone cannot get to the top. The summit is very narrow at the top. Only 1 or 2 people can sit or stand on it. So let the best man or the best woman reach the top by fair means. On that note, I will show you a clip which will depict how the Indian Army, with different regiments, different caste, creed, and origin, different backgrounds, combined together in just 15 days practice to perform at the famous Republic Day Parade, which is the pride and charm of the entire nation. Video, please. Okay, you have just seen the Indian Army contingents marching past the Rashtrapati, the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces. This is just a glimpse to tell you how different contingents of the Indian Army, different regiments, have got together with just 15 days training. You have seen their meticulous marching, the pride and the honor and dignity which they have displayed for the sake of the nation, for the izzat of the Paltan, the battalions or the regiments they belong to, and of course, the izzat of the nation. Boys and girls, young men and women, when you join after successful completion of your training and are selected for different assignments as per your selection through various agencies, and you join the corporate sector into various companies, remember, you can only succeed if you have certain principles in mind, and that is professionalism, punctuality, discipline, dignity, decorum, and honor for whatever you are doing. I will now take you across what are the subtle points to note that will take you to becoming a good leader. And what is important, professional competence, well versed with organizational goals and objectives, mission statements. You must be a role model, be charismatic, lead from the front. Honesty, integrity, loyalty, and courage of conviction is most important. There are numerous examples in the corporate sector where you will be measured on your demonstrated performance and the qualities that you exhibit. Be an inspirer always, an enabler, achiever. Be collaborative and inclusive. Even as a leader or at the bottommost level, become a part of that organization. Don't be a loner. Every man or woman's little piece of information or advice is an important game changer. As you grow higher, you have to be a decision maker. You have to take calculated risks, and you must understand, visualize the impact of the decision, be it strategic or tactical. Remember one thing, today at the junior most level when you are selected, you will be a participant to share your little knowledge, which will enable your boss or your leader to take a decision. Therefore, in the decision-making mechanism, you have to understand that you can't be a passenger. You must be assertive, you must participate, and all leaders must be inclusive in taking their team along with them. It is very essential for a leader and for a performer to have residual combat potential. The meaning of residual combat potential is, let's take the Olympics that just got over. How the Indian hockey team beat that team, Germany, to get the bronze medal. Our team showed the resolute combat potential to hold on. When victory is very near or when it has been achieved, always remember that till the final whistle is blown, the entire circumstances can change. That is the time when your residual combat potential, the energy which you have to yet perform after reaching the virtual winning line, you may be still required to exploit fleeting opportunities. I'll give you a simple example. During the Kargil conflict in 1999, I had a regiment which came under my brigade, where a young captain from one of my regiments launched an attack at 16,000 feet after his company commander was killed in action. So immediately he took charge. Therefore, he was professionally competent. He was well versed with the organizational goals that a particular picket had to be captured. He knew the resultant cost. He had already merged himself into the team. No handing taking over was required on the battlefield. He took charge, led from the front, took the initiative, took certain decisions, and captured the picket despite the number of casualties. His name was Captain Gildyal. He was awarded the Veer Chakra. He had 2 bullets in his hand. They could not be taken out. After that picket was captured at 16,000 feet, when all thought that victory has been achieved, there was a message, and they could make out that the Pakistanis who had withdrawn were firing from another place. So it entailed another attack to be launched, another 1,000 feet up. The men were tired, there were casualties, there were people wounded, they had to be attended to. Could a fresh company be launched right from base? Difficult. Therefore, the task was given to this captain that you are the closest, so launch your company again into attack within the next 2 hours and capture that picket so that the enemy is eliminated once and for all. Captain Gildyal had that residual combat potential. As per the books, all troops who launch an attack at that height must rest, but they decided that rest may become very dangerous. So the company launched an attack after 2 hours, beat the Pakistanis and captured that higher picket at another 1,000 feet, that means 17,000 feet. This is called residual combat potential. That means if you are to walk from IIEBM gate to a particular point, you have walked, the walk is completed, let's say it was 10 kilometers, and Professor Arpit tells you that you need to go a further 2 kilometers, you should have that capability to perform or stretch over the last mile in the same manner in which you have covered the first 10 kilometers. If you saw the Indian troops marching in this Republic Day parade, you see their precision, their timing, and the josh and their morale. And remember, they march like this for 12 kilometers. What people see at Rajpath is only maybe 2 or 3 kilometers, but these troops then march right up to the Red Fort, and it is approximately 12 kilometers. So marching 12 kilometers in this fashion, let me tell you, young men and women, is not easy, but the Indian Army does it. That's the potential which the Indian Armed Forces have. Yesterday, we have hoisted the Indian tricolor for the 75th time after the British left us on 15th August 1947. India is now completed 74 years of its independence, and we are now entered the 75th year. So take your minds to what and how the independence was achieved and who all made the supreme sacrifices. There are many people who have become freedom fighters for the nation, but the Indian Armed Forces have stood fast in being the final bastion for the security of the nation. So remember, it is not only the Indian Armed Forces, it is even people like you who have not worn the uniform but will become nation in service people working from your desks or wherever you may be. It is important to be a good communicator. You must have clarity in expression. You must be calm, unflustered, resilient, and adaptable in fluid situations. Today, the world is going through this pandemic of the COVID-19. You are unable to attend classes, but let us pay a compliment to IIEBM, your dean and director, your principals, all other coordinating staff, be it the clerks, be it the people who are coming to office, be it the safai walas who are cleaning the place, the doctors, nurses, everyone. All have played a role. Today's webinar, or whatever you want to call it, is another system, an innovation that the Institute has applied, and therefore they have adapted themselves to the fluidity in situations because of the health pandemic. Therefore, as a good leader, you must have contingency plans. You must not be rigid. You must be flexible in mind. Be fair and firm in whosoever you assess, and then give awards and recognitions accordingly. Succession planning and career progression is very, very important. And once you join your respective companies, you must be able to assess who are the correct people, who are the right people to move up the ladder. Everyone cannot become a leader or a commander. But a very important thing here is all of us need to be good mentors, coaches, friends, guide, philosopher. And above all, have empathy, have care, be kind. Listen to a person. He may be having an issue or a problem. Help him out. That is the art of good leadership, good understanding of your teams, good understanding of your people. With this little backdrop of what exactly are the tenets of leadership, management, your performance when you come physically to the Institute, be it HR, be it finance, accounting, marketing, whatever it be. Remember one thing, these qualities are very, very important. And unless you develop these, unless you overcome your shortfalls, wherever they may be, because everyone is not perfect, as long as you understand each other, are willing to help each other, you will always realize that you will be a winner throughout. I am now going to take you through a small series of clips which will give you an idea what exactly gets transformed into what I spoke about. If you just look at these pictures, they indicate in a nutshell whatever I have told you. You first saw the video clip of how synergy and discipline translated into performing a task that is the Republic Day parade. Now here if you look, you will see the integration of the Indian Armed Forces, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. The Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force have played a stellar role even before independence of the country, when we were part of the British Empire. The Indian Armed Forces have acquitted themselves with great honor and pride during the First World War, the Second World War, and even in all the battles that have taken place in free India after 1947, be it 47-48, 61 the Goa action, 62 the Chinese invasion, 65 the India-Pakistan war, and 1971 again the Indian Army liberated Bangladesh in the 71 war, followed by 1999 where the Kargil conflict took place. There have been skirmishes with China now, as you know, in Galwan. The Indian Army is already active there. You are also aware of the growing tension and scenario in Afghanistan. As students who come for the MBA program, remember, you are expected to be well versed with what are the current affairs in the country, How will they get impacted by current affairs and situations changing in our neighborhood? Today, we are surrounded by neighbors who are likely to become volatile. Once they become volatile and the security of the nation gets threatened, that is the time when there will be an impact on economy, on progress, on industrialization, on the corporate sector, on manufacturing industry, on the IT sector, and various other impacts, be it in infrastructure, communications, or even in the education systems. So it is important for all of you to have a rounded knowledge when you are at the institute and become aware of what are the pitfalls, what are the challenges. Now, if you look to the top left, you will find that this is a scene from the Kargil conflict of 1999. On the top right, you will see how the Indian Air Force performs to safeguard the air and the skies of India. On the bottom left, you will see how these troops at 21,000 feet in 4 feet of snow, far away from their families, far away from their near and dear ones, continue to perform at temperatures which are minus 45 to minus 50 degrees Celsius. Just look at the inhospitable terrain. While you and I sit in comfort, today of course the malls are closed, but let's say when the malls open and we are sitting around enjoying ourselves, remember there is someone patrolling the nation, whether it is on the northern front, whether it is on the west, east, or anywhere. The Indian Army is functioning 24/7. They are being provided logistic support by the Air Force. And if you see in the middle the Navy, it ensures that the coastal line of India is well protected from people who are likely to threaten it. And on the right, bottom right, you will find that after the Kargil conflict, the national flag was taken with pride by these soldiers who captured those heights. Now, all this is possible only if certain points which I mentioned to you earlier are applied. And it doesn't stop in the Indian Armed Forces. It carries forward into the corporate sector also, or into the line which any one of you may choose, whether it be employed in your own business or becoming an entrepreneur. It is important that you always say izzat for your company, or first of all is izzat for your nation. Am I doing something wrong which will tarnish the image of my country, of my company, of my department, and myself? So that is very, very important. I just wish to highlight a few points in leadership, in combat, and in the corporate. The levels and responsibilities will vary. Remember, when you start at the lowest rung, you must understand how much you are to contribute, what are your responsibilities at what level, and leave it at that. The HR, materials, resources, correct deployment, switching of teams is an important aspect which I want to cover. Remember, when you take your place in a role which is assigned to you, don't be fixated in your mind that since I have come here, this is what my job description was. I am therefore unable to perform anything else which is not in the context of my task or job description. That is incorrect. You must be aware that the human resource materials team are deploying teams' resources, and they may need to redeploy people and switch teams depending on the company's or mission's objectives. It is very important for delegation of responsibility and authority, and work with speed, agility, and take certain risks. Remember, in life, it will never be smooth sailing 100%. Imagine you are driving and it starts raining. You are near Lonavala, the Ghat section is starting and it is pouring. You have two alternatives. One is to stop the car at the side of the road, let the heavy rainfall go, and then you resume. But in the bargain, you may lose out on time. You may not be able to accomplish your mission within the stipulated time frame. On the other hand, you may take a decision that I will continue to drive slowly and I will ensure that my wipers are working correctly, and I will continue to look through the side mirror to see what is the situation around. In doing so, you will have taken a calculated risk, but you will also achieve that whatever this rainy patch is, you will be able to negotiate it faster and therefore come into the sunlight or to the dry area quicker. The decision is yours. The advice that you give, being a junior to your senior, will again make a big contributing factor. It is also important that as a leader, you need to take inputs from different people and then finally take your own decision. But once you take the decision, remember you have to stick by it. I'll give you a classic example which is very famous. This was one of the finest decisions taken in the history of mankind. On 6 June 1944, when none of us were born, the world was at war against Hitler. I expect you all know what happened in the Second World War and how did it come to a close. The Allied invasion was to take place to defeat Hitler in Germany, and nearly 3 million troops were to be launched over the English Channel in ships, landing craft, with a lot of aircraft flying over, with 3 assault airborne divisions jumping into France. It was going to be a bloody battle. The ships had to negotiate something like 100 kilometers, and it was stormy, it was raining, and the meteorological department said that the day chosen, that was 5th June 1944, is unsuitable. So one man, that is the topmost leader, General Eisenhower, he had under him, remember, 3 million troops. He had 6,000 ships. He had 5,000 aircraft. He had a number of generals. They were people from different countries. United States of America, Britain, Canada, France, and a few Indians also. And they were launching the attack on Germany. So it was decided that it will be unfair to go into this bad weather. So the offensive was changed by 1 day. But on 6th June, again, the meteorological department people said, if you don't take this chance when there is a break in the rain and in the winds, your next chance will be only after 18 days. Now imagine the decision to be taken. Here are 3 million troops. Convert them into our language of lakhs. Imagine the number of ships, the number of aircraft, all people ready to go into battle, knowing fully well that all will not come out alive. It was a big decision to be taken by General Eisenhower, and finally he took an input from all the people. There were 60% saying let's go, 40% said no, let's wait. But Eisenhower took the calculated risk and he said let's go. And on that night, on night 5th and 6th June 1944, 3 airborne divisions jumped into France. 3 million troops were launched into battle, and a number of ships and aircraft participated in the biggest invasion in the history of mankind. My dear friends, shed a tear for them. 8,000 people were killed within 24 hours on the battlefields of Normandy over a stretch of 200 kilometers. Churchill told his wife, while you and I are having our morning tea, there will be minimum 20,000 people getting killed. 8,000 people laid down their lives for the world. It was a big risk. It was a calculated risk, but a decision that had to be taken. And the seeds of victory were sown that day on 6 June 1944. That is how many years have gone by. Just calculate, 77 years ago. But the world was rid of the tyranny of Hitler. The armed forces of those nations, including some from India, laid down their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, that is what is leadership. That is what is decision making. That is the amount of calculated risks that you need to take. That is the cost of freedom. That is the cost which you will need to pay, whether you are working in the corporate sector or you are having your own business, to achieve success. You have to be a good judge of people and have a good appraisal mechanism to award and reward the right people. And last but not the least, you will learn this when you join your companies. There is something known as BCP, Business Continuity Plan. And you have to ensure that you keep your readiness. You can't say now the train has stopped, the bridge has been blown off between Lonavala and Bombay. Now, sir, I can't do this task of meeting so-and-so foreigner who has come. No, it is your task to have already thought of what are the alternative means and how will you get across. That is called business continuity plan. If your vehicle fails, find an alternative means. Don't go back to your boss and tell him, Abhi main kya karoon? Sorry. That means you have not thought of all these imponderables. Whenever you have achieved success, remember, if there are other opportunities, exploit them. That is called exploiting fleeting opportunities and being resourceful. Keep your mind open. There are many lessons that you will learn as you join your respective companies, and a lot of learning will be hands on ground. So remember that. There was an acronym called VUCA. Most of you will come across this when you join your companies, and I'm sure even when you come for your training to the IIEBM. It was introduced by the United States Army War College to describe volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous multilateral world. My friends, remember this acronym. Wherever you go, be it today Ratan Tata, be it the Tata Motors, Tata Steel, any top company you take in the IT sector, manufacturing, industry, whatever you want to do, you will always come across situations which are volatile. You will always come across uncertainty. You will always come across complex situations and an ambiguous environment. It will be very easy to function if VUCA is not there. But then that even a blind man can do, even a child can do. So remember, apply this formula VUCA. You should have the capability as a junior leader or as a senior leader to understand disruptive technology, disruptive mechanism in the functioning and that is volatility in the situation. Volatile means aggressive, means something which is not conducive to a quiet nature. Uncertainty, आपको पता नहीं चलेगा अभी करना क्या है. Complex, there will be 2-3 situations which will entangle and clutter your mind. There will be ambiguity. Good is the leader who has the breadth of vision and the ability to function effectively in an environment of uncertainty and ambiguity. We apply this in the army very well on the battlefront. I faced the 1971 war on the Eastern Front and I have experienced VUCA. I have been on the line of control in Kashmir. We have experienced VUCA. I have been in the counterinsurgency environment in Nagaland, Mizoram for 3.5 years. We have experienced VUCA. Remember, the degree of VUCA can vary. At one particular time, VUCA may be 50%. At another point of time, it may be 80%. At another point of time, it may be only 20%. So the degree of VUCA can vary. But my friends, VUCA will always be there. The world is not free of VUCA. And good will be the performer who will give advice, who will perform his duties under the VUCA situation. It was subsequently taken by strategic business leaders to describe the chaotic, turbulent, rapidly changing business environment that has now become the new normal. And my friends, this leads you to new leadership dimensions. Take the present COVID-19 situation. Who had ever predicted in March 2020 that the situation will prevail? 1.5 years has gone by. We are experiencing VUCA of a different nature. New leadership dimensions have emerged. Lot of companies have said, resort to online workshops, resort to Zoom platforms, work only at 50%. Today, schools, colleges, universities are closed. But has the nation come to a standstill? Has the world come to a standstill? We are continuing to work. So our leadership, the Prime Minister, the various other people, the Education Minister, and all these people are again performing under the VUCA circumstances. New leadership dimensions will emerge. My dear friends, what will happen in the near future is difficult to predict. Therefore, you must have the intuition, you must have the ability to think ahead, to think beyond the visible horizons. Must look at the perspective horizons which are virtual, they are not real. You cannot see them right now. Plan ahead, and always save to ensure that you are not caught off guard. Always be on guard. So remember, leadership in combat and in the corporate, VUCA is a very, very important acronym which must be kept in your pocket. If you do this, you will always be a successful person. Okay, my dear friends, I have covered the basic essentials of what I wanted to tell you. We will now, I am ready to take on any questions. Arpit, I do hope I have been in time.
Sir,
Do we have time for questions?
yes, sir, we have time, sir.
Now, my dear friends, and of course the faculty, I will just take 2 minutes to summarize. What I would like you young people to understand is this, that the IIEBM, of which I have been an integral member for now 15 years. Am I right, Arpit?
Yes, sir.
2000.
Absolutely.
I have had the great pleasure of finding my name on their advisory council. I have seen this institute grow, flourish. They have got a set of dedicated people You would have met them had you come to classes physically. The kind of discipline, the kind of dignity, the kind of decorum, and the honor that they display is absolutely military precision. These people are struggling to ensure that the highest standards are maintained in any institute of business management. And I am proud to say that IIEBM, or Indus School of Business Management, today ranks at the topmost level. Please do not compare yourselves with the IIMs, which are now springing like mushrooms all over the country. IIM Ahmedabad, IIM, Bombay, IIM Kanpur, wherever they are. So people always feel that an IIT IIM combination is the battle winning factor. Let me tell you, that is not the battle winning factor. Just going to Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, or London School of Economics doesn't make you a top class person. Or I have not got through to IIM Ahmedabad. I have not got through to IIM Calcutta. Sorry, I have come across people who, despite these big names that they take, have not been successful. And I have seen people from the IIEBM who have been successful. I have had the pleasure of functioning with students from this institute during internship. I have been vice president, head of HR. I have recruited people, and let me tell you, their performance is nothing second to what you will find from the IIMs or the IITs. These are only names. I am from the National Defence Academy, Indian Military Academy. I have been an instructor at the Officers Training Academy in Madras. Let me tell you, all three academies produce the best. There are no differentials. So my final message to you is, acquire knowledge, display it effectively, and don't bother about the branding or the names from where you have acquired this knowledge.
Thanks.
If you don't perform, you can be from the best institute, you will still be a fool. But if you have all the acumen with you and you perform, you will be as good as a Cambridge, Oxford, or a London School of Economics, because you will display that appropriately. On those words, my young friends, let me wish you good luck, good health, do well, perform well, get good assignments, and let your parents or the people who are looking after you be proud of you. And of course, the directorial staff at the IIEBM who are slogging for you, make them also proud. Thank you very much. I wish you all good luck, good health, and God bless. Thank you.
Sir, coming to the next leg of this session, I have a couple of questions for you from my students. If you allow me, sir, I'll ask you.
Please go ahead, Arpit.
Sir, the first question is, one of my students from Jaipur is asking,
Yeah.
sir, what is the similarity that you have seen in corporate world and Indian armed forces?
Okay. Similarity. Am I right?
Right, sir.
Okay. See, there are basically two similarities, or other three. Number one, both the armed forces and the corporate are mission oriented. Number one, they are oriented towards achievement of goals which are specified. In doing so, both the armed forces and the corporates have accepted that the goalpost can be changed. So there is a strong similarity in this objective mission oriented achievement.
Sir.
If you see, I must tell your students, the goalkeeper plays a very, very important part. You may have the best of teams, But if your goal is left undefended, you cannot perform. If you are not flexible to accept goalposts changing, then you will not be victorious. So that is the biggest similarity, number one. And the next one is that human resource is very, very important. I may have the best of guns, tanks. I am an artillery man. I've also functioned with a tank regiment. You may give me the best of missiles, rockets, information technology systems, all radars, surveillance, aircraft, everything. But if I don't have the right man at the right place to do the right work, nothing can be achieved. So similarly, in the corporate sector, you may have any number of tools and mechanisms, but if you don't have the right man, the motivated man to perform, to produce, your industry will not flourish. And the third and final point is discipline and izzat of the company is very, very important. Unfortunately, here there is a slight difference. The rate of attrition and the rate of retention in the corporate sector is different to the Indian Armed Forces. In the Armed Forces, we do not have attrition except on the battlefield when a person can get killed or he is wounded. Unfortunately, this needs to improve in the corporate sector because at the drop of a hat, the employee gets impacted, becomes unhappy. He's either not happy with the boss, he's not happy with the hygiene conditions, and he finds that as an excuse to move out. And the company has to spend a lot on retraining and rehiring. So this is one impacting difference. Otherwise, the corporates and the Indian Armed Forces are running parallelly on their wavelengths. This is my answer.
Sir, the next question is from the student from Calcutta. She says, sir, how can I serve nation in spite not being in armed forces?
Okay.
And in brackets, she has written Texas. So that means she wishes to say that, yes, of course, I will be paying taxes, but something else.
Okay. See, there is a misnomer in the country that you are serving the nation only if you wear the uniform. I disagree with that. You see, serving the nation can be in many ways. It is not only by wearing the uniform. Everyone chooses his line. Even an engine driver is serving the nation. If he doesn't drive the train, you are not communicating or transporting people from one place to another. If a doctor does not perform his duties, he is not serving humanity. If a waiter is unable to serve you in your recreation time, then he is contributing to your malfunctioning. There is a teacher. Now, if the teacher is not performing his or her role, she is failing in her duties in educating people. A safai wala who is not cleaning the platform or the toilet, he is also not performing. So every person in this country is serving the nation. That is my first point. Don't take it that only us who wear the uniform and are serving on the borders, we are not the only serving the nation. You are serving the nation, Arpit. Everyone is serving the nation. Even the person who is selling you goods in a multinational store is serving the nation. The police is serving the nation. So every student must realize that work is worship. When I work, when I produce, industry produces steel, iron, everything, you are contributing to the nation. You are contributing to the economy of the nation, and payment of taxes is something which is there in all countries. Unless you pay taxes, the government cannot collect revenue. So my dear friends, this young lady, you are also serving the nation. Just because I joined the army and I loved it, it doesn't mean that I am the only one who served the nation. If I was lucky to fight a war and come back, there are many, many more people who have been heroes, but they never came back. So let not any student feel that I am only serving the nation if I wear the uniform and I am in service to the nation. No, even your safai wala, even your chai wala is serving the nation. Even your person who is cleaning the bathrooms is serving the nation. So we are all serving the nation. Let us serve the nation with pride and honor.
Certainly, sir. Sir, this is the last question that I'll take, and this question is from a student from Asansol, West Bengal. The question is, sir, how can I keep myself always self-motivated?
Okay. Now you see, motivation, it is a very big psychological subject. I can get motivated by various factors like finances, economy, peace of mind. But the biggest motivating factor is that I must be an achiever. I must be in the contention to move up the ladder. If that ladder is not visible to me, then my motivation level goes down. But my friend, the ladder will only be visible to those people who are professionally competent. Unless you are professionally competent, unless you have displayed that spark to be recognized amongst your competitors, because there will always be competition. You are not functioning in an isolated environment. You are competing with people. So only the person who is motivated, whose morale is up, that he knows I can aspire to get to the next step, is a motivator. Now just take a simple example of the gold medal that we won at the Olympics. That person had an injury in his arm, Subedar Neeraj Chopra, but he got motivated. He said that I have been looked after by the country, by so many people. I must prove my worth. Look at our hockey team, the way they played, the women. It's a matter of great pity that they lost, but the way they played. And why did they play like that? They could have easily said, "Arey, हम तो semi-final ही हार गए, अभी क्या फायदा है?" The men's hockey team also, why did they win the bronze? Because they wanted to stand at the podium. So how will I improve my motivation? When I am looking ahead, I am not looking down. My angle of sight to life is raised high. I am looking up. It is then that you will be motivated. If you don't do that, even the man who is earning 10 crores a month will not be motivated. Whereas a man who is just earning 5,000 rupees a month is motivated because one day he wants to become supervisor of that company. So it is the ladder, it is the aim, it is the fire in your belly that I need to perform. I should not be ticked by Arpit or by my professors that your dress is not okay, your performance is not okay. That will be taken as something amiss. I will not be motivated. Therefore, it's a very vast subject, Arpit. It can take 1 hour to explain what is motivation and morale. We do this in the army. Why does a man lay down his life for the nation? I have seen it happening. I have seen people charging a bunker. You take the case of Lieutenant Vijay Thapar, who got the Paramveer Chakra. Just read, tell your students to Google.
Sir.
This man charged a bunker and got killed. What is it that sparked him to go ahead? I have been in battle. It is not easy to charge when you know that you don't know what will happen. But Vijay Thapar did that at 16,000 feet because he was motivated. He had that izzat and pride. He didn't want to be a guy who will be shot in the back. He paid the consequences, but today his parents, I spoke to his father yesterday, they are proud parents. Their son has gone. Just a 23-year-old boy has gone. But he has left behind a legacy only because of motivation and morale. And that is what this nation requires from the younger generation.
Exactly, sir.
My message, yes.
So with this, we come to the conclusion of today's session. We thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. You have motivated newly inducted batch to excel in their chosen field, and I'm sure they will remember all the nuances that you have shared with them that can help them grow and achieve higher in their life. Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you, Arpit. Jai Hind to all your staff and students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai Hind.